Namaste. Um, a small little explanation about the background, my background. Um, there are two gurus sitting there. The one who is little, with a darker ochre robe and sitting leaning back with a gray beard, is Bharati Tirtha Swami. He's the Shankaracharya of Sringeri, which I often refer to. This is he and his guru, Abhinav Vidyatyatya, have been very kind to me in influencing many of my life decisions, as well as teaching me quite a lot of stuff. Other person sitting is one of the Udupi Swami. Udupi Madhva Parampara Swamijis. His name is Puttige Swami Guru. That's who keeps coming to New Jersey often. He has got his own branch here in US in multiple locations, including New Jersey. Obviously, both of them represent different viewpoint. One represents Advaita, other represents Dvaita, but they meet pretty often, discussing and exchanging notes, because other than the viewpoint on philosophy, everything is identical as far as the practices are concerned. That is the background which I have for today's conversation. Last time I stopped where Devahuti was asking her son Kapila, who is an avatar of Vishnu himself, that, oh my God, I wasted all my life, though I had a great husband who knew a lot of wisdom. We never discussed this. Instead, I was so focused on, raising a family, building wonderful palaces, gaining riches, and so on and so forth. And suddenly it was too late when he decided to get into sannyasa ashrama, renouncing life. It was too late for me to learn anything from him. But he assured me that our son, that is Kapila, to whom she was talking to, that you are Vishnu Avatara and you know much more than him, that is my husband. Therefore, you have to help me in this particular regard. That was the request who they put to Kapila. And Kapila was saying, this is where I think I stopped. Let me continue one or two slokas from there and then move on. Jnana vairagya yuktena bhakti yogina yoginaha kshemaya padamulam me pravishyantum kutobhyaham. Whatever yogis were using, if you remember correctly, this is the point I stressed also. If you look at this statement, he's saying Kapila, who is apparently an avatar of Vishnu himself, he's not saying, I am Vishnu, I will tell you. He's not saying that. I want to share the method which yogis have used, right, and succeeded. I'm going to teach you that method. It gives us, in addition to direct meaning, it gives us an interesting perspective which is hidden in this statement. And that perspective is, even if Vishnu is born as a human being, he is going to teach what was prevalent already, that such knowledge was pre-existed, and that's what he's going to tap into in paraphrasing, giving in a particular for new format. Why is this important? If you recall the various conversations we have had on Bhagavatam in the last few months, the central theme which I have been talking about is that the very first batch of people who were born in the universe was created. The living beings, and definitely human beings, even they needed help. They needed the wisdom to break the cycle of life and death. Why? The only purpose of being born in this world is to break the cycle of life and death. There's no other purpose, meaningful purpose in this world at all. But then the question arises, from where would the first batch of people know this? Because they are the first batch of people. Therefore, that wisdom has to pre-exist even before the people were born. That is why Bhagavata, if you recall the various chapters which we discussed so far in the evolution of the universe, we discussed the physical evolution of the universe in terms of stars, moons, the suns, etc. We have discussed the species, how the various kind of species evolved. And we also discussed another angle of how intellect and the wisdom evolved. The wisdom came first. The biggest argument was the wisdom or the knowledge is not matter. Therefore, it is no way connected with physical or non-physical manifestation of the universe, because it's not a matter thing. It is always there. And in fact, that knowledge, wisdom itself is called Narayana, is the way we presented that. So that's what it taps into. Even Vishnu is born as a Kapila. He's not going to talk in his capacity as Kapila or as a Vishnu. He's going to say, this knowledge is already there. I'm going to tell you this knowledge. Etavara loke asmin pumsamni shreyasodeha tivrena bhakti yogena mano mayati mayapite stiram. Yeah, mayarpitam stiram. That is fixating the mind firmly on me, right? Here he speaks as Vishnu, right? People were able to achieve this so-called deliverance. And that is the method I'm going to explain. This is where we stopped last time. What is that? Atate sampravakshyami tattvanam lakshanam pratak yad viditva vimuchyeta purushaha prakrit prakrutair gunai. Right? Prakrutair gunai. That means Prakriti is a manifestation, a physical manifestation, as we see as a nature, right? What are we trying to explain? The fundamental truth to you will help you, right? Break the bond. That's what you're seeking. What are you seeking after living? Is telling his mother. After living a long, wonderful life, having a nice husband, and she's supposedly Manuputri, one of the Manu's daughter herself. So, after having a nice life with a husband, raising children, of all enjoying all the wealth, etc., what are you trying to say? You're trying to realize a truth which will break the cycle of life and death, will prevent you from emotionally and psychologically pulled up and down by sad things which happen in life or joyous things which happen in life. Right? That's what I'm going to tell you. Jnanam Nishreya sa artha purushasya atma darshanaha idahur varanye hyate hridaya granthi vedanam. What will this method, this truth will do? It will help you to break all the confusion, all the delusion, all the, what shall I say, mind being tossed left, right, and center. That will be cut off. Hridaya granthi vedanam. The heart, the mind is full of knots. That's an expression used in this text to tell you it's like it's not smooth. Therefore, you feel terrible. There are so many knots, unanswerable questions, etc., etc. That has to be broken. That will be broken. How? By Purushas Atma Darshanam. Atma Darshanam means you get self-realization. That self-realization, this method I'm going to talk about, will help you achieve Atma Darshanam, self-realization, due to which this Hridaya Granthi, all the confusion which you have, all the doubts which you have, etc., will disappear or it will be cut off. That is the method which I'm going to tell you. Now, if you remember, this is what you're asking. This question is what you're asking, and Merrill is asking, what is that method? Now, Kapila is going to explain this method. Yeah, right? Anadir Atma Purusho Nirgunaha Prakrute Paraha Pratyagdhama swayam jyotir vishwam yena samanvitam. What is this self-knowledge which I am going to talk about? First, let us understand what exactly is the absolute truth towards which we are all moving towards. The Purusha, or the so-called super entity which pre-existed the creation of the universe. Again, you please recall the various conversations we have had in other chapters of Bhagavatam. That Purusha who pre-existed the creation, right? Recognizing who that person is, recognizing who we are, and our interrelationship between who we are and our relation with that Purusha is the key in this. Therefore, he starts with explaining that Purusha. Anadir Atma Purusho Nirgunaha. That Purusha is Anadi, unoriginated. That means for anything and everything is universe, you can start talking about how this was created. When was this created? Right? Why was this created? But when it comes to this Purusha Tattva, the Supreme Purusha Tattva, it is unoriginated, Anadi, unoriginated. Nirgunaha means it is beyond attributes. I mean, this is where slight departure happened between, for example, the two Swamijis will interpret differently. Advaitin will say Nirguna is absolute attributeless. That's why it's called Nirguna. Whereas the other person would argue Nirguna means beyond attributes, means beyond our ability to characterize. It's a matter of opinion, but fact remains that in common parlance, on day to day, whatever way we define characters, whatever way we define, for example, something is red, blue, green, or sweet, or not, or sour. These are called attributes. This is how we try to characterize things. Yeah, these are called attributes. But this Purusha is Nirgunaha. Yeah? Prakrito Paraha. That means he is beyond whatever we see in front of us as nature. Or whatever we see is beyond all those things. Yeah. Pratyekadhama, he is omnipresent. Swayam Jyoti. This concept also we talked about in the last couple of sessions. Swayam Jyoti. This person, the so-called Purusha, does not require any illumination externally. In other words, he is the knowledge in himself. The knowledge is called Purusha. You have to acquire knowledge, I have to acquire knowledge, because we don't know. But if I am the knowledge itself, right, then there's nothing to know because I'm knowledge itself. So I am Jyoti. Vishwam yena samanvitaha. This Vishwam yen, all this whatever you see around, all kind of species, all kind of forms, etc., whatever you see around, samanvitaha. Everything is sustained by this Purusha. The way to understand, one example I could give is that we all know, for example, it's a very crude example nonetheless. We all know that bubble packs, which you use for packaging, right? Which are a big sheet with a lot of bubbles. Supposing you had various shapes and sizes of bubbles in a same, on roll. Normally we have the same size bubbles, but assume they are different. They're all different, all right, but they're all sustained by the substrate material and the air which is filled in. You try to understand similarly, all the millions and trillions of things you see in this universe is sustained by this Purusha who's attributeless. Okay. Any difficulty in capturing this? Yeah. But then the problem is, if we are positing an entity which is nirgunaha, which is beyond attributes or without attributes, then how do we relate to it? You cannot say that this entity is beyond all your senses and then still talk to me. Because when you talk to me, I'm using my senses. I'm looking at you, I'm reading things, I'm feeling things, I'm hearing things, so on and so forth. which are all using senses. Then what do you mean by talking about an entity which is transcending the senses? Natita, what is the point? How do we solve this puzzle? Therefore, right? Answer is Sa Esha Prakritim Sukshmam Devim Gunamayim Vibhuhu Yadricheva Pagatam Abhyatita Leelaya Yadricheva. This entity, Purusha, which is attributeless, on his own will, right? As a Leelaya, as if it was a simple game for him, he takes a form which has attributes so that you can deal with it. The meaning of that is, right? Gunamayim, Devim, Gunamayim, Vibhuhu. Understand that an Nirguna entity, Purusha, takes a form of attributes, which means it can have a shape, it can have a speech, it can tell you things, you can write things to you, etc. As almost like a play, he could do this transformation for your sake, to be able to tell you. This line indicates that various God forms, which people talk about in various parts of the world, in various religions, or various gurus, which we all come across, right, who give us the wisdom, are to be seen as a physical manifestation of this Purusha Tattva. That's why if you talk to gurus like what I'm showing in my background, or any serious guru, for example, they'll always say that this is not my knowledge. Ishvara gave this knowledge to me, right? For example, I'm not an expert in other religions, but I can borrow and for the sake of conversation say, it's always told in Bible that Christ spent some lot of days somewhere and he learned things from the Father and came back to tell. Right? Likewise, Prophet Muhammad was supposed to have gone somewhere and come back and learn something and tell, etc. This is fairly the similar model used on theological constructs. The notion being the same thing, that an entity, a Purusha entity, the ultimate entity, which is all knowledge, all wisdom, right? Which is Swayam Prakasha, which is unoriginated, which is infinite in size. But because it's attributeless, there's no way species like you and me who can only relate with form. Like for example, however much I try, however good I am, there's no way I can transfer my ideas to you unless I speak. Likewise, however good you are, right? You could be even better than me. But even then, you'll never be able to know what is in my head unless I speak. That means, as human beings, or any living species, we are constrained to relate to each other, whichever way, positively, negative, whichever way we want to deal with each other, only through a form. That means that Purusha entity, which is Nirguna, beyond attribute or attributeless, willfully, playfully takes the various forms for us to learn from. Yeah? Do you get that? Any questions on this?
So Paddy Uncle, so that means we call God in different names, right? So they say Ma Sharda is she's everything. She's the main deity. Then some people worship Lord Shiva, some people worship Lord Vishnu, right? So just to comment on that, so we're coming to a point where the Devahuti's son, that is he's trying to say that it's nirguna, so it's formless. So just because the humans have to believe and have bhakti in God, he takes various forms. So he's trying to tell that God is formless and he could be called in different names. Is that where Lord Vishnu is getting to?
Um, um, I,
Because
yeah, yeah. Let me be a little nuanced in this. Um, I don't know what you mean by God. Therefore, I have to be very clear about this. The Purusha, is considered to be right Nirguna. Yeah, but right,
right,
but if you are going to, for our sake, the Purusha can present himself as a Devata, a God. Purusha is over and above God, like you and I talk. For example, Vishnu, for example, Krishna could be a God, right? Jesus could be a messenger, all right? But the Tattva, the original Tattva, is not God. Please understand, it goes above God, the various manifestations. But that is why we say there are so many gods we talk about in Hinduism, right? This is a god is a subset, the Sharda or Lakshmi, or these are all one particular attribute of that entity, which is attributeless, right? We take that. Because why is that complication comes? If you say it's attributeless, nirguna is told, or beyond attributes,
yeah.
right? As Dvaitis would like to say, if you say that, then how do you think about it? And because that is how we react to each other. The human mind is designed to relate only in the form of forms and attributes. That's the only way.
But
Yes.
isn't
I'm sorry?
sorry, but isn't Kapila Muni saying to his mother to worship towards the formless? Sorry.
Not yet. We don't know what he's going to tell. Not
Okay.
yet. Not yet. Yeah. Because we'll see what he's going to say, number one. And number two,
Okay.
The instruction which any guru gives to another, at this point in time, Devahuti is a disciple and her son, Kapila, is the guru. An instruction which a guru gives to a disciple is not standard for everybody. Like for example, like Abhi was asking in the beginning, right? Depending upon the evolutionary state of the mind of the recipient, the answer would be different. Like for example, the Bharat Tirtha who is there, though he is an Advaiti, though he is a Nirguna Upasaka, etc., he or his guru, Abhinavya Tirtha, will not give a Nirguna Upasaka or Nirguna method of worship to everybody. He won't. So for somebody, he will give mantra upadesha, which is Subramanya Devata. For somebody, he will give Krishna. For somebody, he will give nothing. He will say, no, for you, none of this. You just go and meditate. So he will decide based on the capacity of the recipient, the evolutionary status of the recipient, what to do. Therefore, it is too early for us, just because Kapila mentioned, right, that Anadiratma Purusho Nirgunaha, just because he mentioned to Devahuti, we cannot make an assumption that he is going to tell her to do a Nirguna method of working or worship. In my guesswork, though I know what's going to happen in future, but for the conversation's sake, I'm saying, in my mind, most likely he won't. Why? How did the conversation begin? The conversation began with Devahuti saying that though I had all the opportunity and my husband knew a lot of stuff, I never asked him anything. I was so focused on building the family, building the wealth, children, so on and so forth. So that mind is most likely to be very much a form and attribute oriented mind. That is number one. Number two, if another point to remember is either previous session or the previous to previous session, as kind of a prologue, right? When Vishnu assures Kardama Rishi, who is the father of Kapila Muni, he says that I will be born to you as a son. People are having difficulty in attribute-less. It doesn't say exactly, I'm just paraphrasing. Attribute-less worship methodology, people are having difficulty. Therefore, I'm going to bring out a son to you who will make it very easy for people to follow. That is the context in which the whole conversation happens, even from the very beginning. In fact, he also mentioned probably we covered it last time. Kapila mentions, in fact, I gave a contra example to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which we take in other sessions. If you look at Patanjali Yoga Sutra, that also talks about Ashtanga Yoga, and you will recognize Kapila is going to talk about Ashtanga Yoga. Same thing here. The difference being, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it's very abstract. Patanjali just mentions Ishvara as a concept which is beyond time, space, and attributes, and leaves at that. Beyond that, he doesn't talk anything about Ishvara, etc. at all. Occasionally, he says that it can happen as per Ishvara's will as well. Beyond that, he does not go elaborately defining what that Ishvara is and how do you relate to him, how do you worship. He does not. He focuses a lot more on what you can do. What kind of yoga you will learn, what kind of asanas you will do, what kind of pranayama you will do, what kind of meditation you will do, what will happen in samadhi. This is what Patanjali is all talking about, which is going to be very hard for vast majority of people. That is why in Bhagavata, Kapila mentions, I'm going to present you a method which will make you live the life as you normally do. And yet, you will get the benefit. How? We will leverage whatever your weakness is. What is our weakness? Our weakness is to start with, we cannot think beyond form and attribute. We cannot relate beyond form and attribute. We are full of desires. We want things. We want to sing. We want to dance. We want to enjoy. This is our weakness. So Kapila tells, if this is the problem which you have, I will use the same method. You like forms? I will give you a sweet form. You like to sing? Sing about this God. You like to dance? Dance with the song of the God. If you like to enjoy the bliss of this God. So whatever you think is the weakness, I will help you reorient and redirect towards a Vishnu Tattva. That way, you're not doing anything very different. Instead of loving your spouse or friend or something, love Ishvara. Love is still there. It's not changed. Only thing is redirected. So that is how this whole context of the conversation happens. In which case, it is very, very less likely, right, that Kapila is going to teach a Nirguna Upasana method. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, Prabhupada.
Okay. Any other question? Gunair vichitraha shrutim sarupaha prakritim prajaha vilokya muhe sadhya sa iha jnana gukayaha. While we are conditioned, or we all like to deal with in terms of forms and attribute, the problem in that is this. That's what we have to recognize. Gunair vichitraha shruti sujatim sarupaha. The multitudes of rupas, the forms which you see around, is differentiated by the changes in the attribute. Somebody looks taller, somebody, millions of people tall, short, bright, all kind of stuff, right? This multitude, you can be drowned in this multitude. Not only you can be drowned in this multitude, viloke mumuhe sadhyaha. That means you can be bewitched by the beautiful multitude, and you may forget yourself in this multiplicity. Right? This is something which, frankly speaking, this is the issue, right? We see so many beautiful things, so many likable things, so many wonderful things. And we are having a problem of desire. And therefore, our mind will go after these things rather than chasing the truth. This is how moha happens. Mumuhe sadhyaha. Evam parabi jnanena kartrutvam prakrite puman karmasu kriyamaneshu gunair atmani manyate. Because of this multitude, we get bewitched. What happens is we indulge in, right, completely activity, thinking that we are the doers, right? Kartrutvam prakrite puman. Kartrutve. We assume, we are now moving towards some of the points as an answer to Merrill's question. The problem is we see multitudes of things to chase, to like, dislike, right? Love, so on and so forth, and we are bewitched by that, and we go after that because we think we are the doer. This kartrutva. In addition to multiplicity of things around us, we have a notion of kartrutva. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. Because of that, you know, what happens? What happens is tadasya samsrutir bandaha paratantrayam cha tatkritam bhavatya kartru ishasya sakshinau nirvritatmanaha. Because you have a feeling that I am the doer and I am the enjoyer, and because there are multiplicity of wonderful, wonderful things to desire and chase, we get bound by this. Those multiplicity of things start binding us, dominating us. What do I mean by that? For example, if there are 10 different things you want to buy, you want to buy a washing machine, you want to buy a dryer, you want to buy a microwave, you want to buy a car, you want to buy so many 10 different things you want to buy. You like them, you want to buy. But you find that you don't have money to buy all of them at once. So you have to buy in phases. It may take quite a few years before you're able to acquire all the things you wanted at that point in time. Till that list is completed, the constituent, that list will dominate your life. Oh my God, I don't have enough money to buy a townhouse. I only have an apartment, money to buy an apartment. Therefore, when am I going to? Therefore, you will drive into activity to earn more money and save more money so that you'll have enough money to buy a townhouse from an apartment. You may not be doing anything else. You may not have time to do anything else. But unfortunately, our mind is, because of the multiplicity of things around, the moment you try to exhaust this list, you will have another list. Because by the time, to use a common language, by the time you got promoted, you got another $20,000, $30,000 coming every year, your list has grown. In other words, because you think that I am the doer, I am enjoying these things, that feeling, kartrutva, bhoktritva is there, and because there are a multitude of things which are attractive to you, or like or dislike, the list never ends. They drive your life. Whatever else you do is driven by that list, right? That is why what happens is we become the victim of entities rather than being master of what we see around. We become slave of what we see around. Karya karana kartrutve karanam prakritim viduhu bhoktrutve sukha dukhanam purusham prakrite param. This karya karanam kartrutva. Karya is the activity. Karanam is why, objective of what we are doing. Kartrutva is the doership feeling. Yeah, these are all flowing from the nature. The nature is like that around us. Bhoktrutve sukha purusham prakrite param. This enjoyership, bhoktrutva means enjoyership. I am enjoying this. That feeling, right? That is the basic problem, which is going to completely lead to sukha dukha nam purusham prakrite param. The sukha dukha, instead of focusing on the purusha, we are going after these multitudes of things. Because of this I am the doer feeling migrates into I am the enjoyer feeling, and that completely distracts you from the purusha. Now, any questions on this?
I'm good, Temple.
Abhi, Mirel, any questions?
No question. I understand.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, no questions here.
Okay. At this point, Devati has a doubt. All that is fine. But the thing is, Prakrite Purushasyapi Lakshanam Purushottamam Bruhi Karnayorasya Sadasatcha Chadatmakam. The Purusha, you said, is an ultimate principle, which is Nirguna, beyond attributes. However, as it were just a play, it can take a particular form for the sake of guiding all of us. That much I understand. Now you say Prakriti, the nature is of multitudes, which offers so many things to like and dislike. And because we think we are the doer, we start doing it. That leads you to I am the enjoyer concept, and therefore we get bound, and therefore we are not able to really focus on Purusha, is your argument, Kapila. But don't we see that Purusha as well as Prakriti, both are attributes of the same thing? After all, if the nature is like this, it's because the Purusha created this. Then how can Purusha create something and then make us victim to those things and then hold it against us? How is it possible? Why create both the so-called attributeless Nirguna Purusha and then Gunapurti Purusha, or a god or guru, and multitude of things, and then bewitch us? What is the purpose of all these things? So it's a valid question, right? I'm sure all of us would ask the same thing. Why all these things? So Sri Bhagavan Vacha here, Kapila is called as a Bhagavan because he's an avatar of Vishnu. Yeah? Yatta Triguna Yatta Trigunam Abhyaktam Nityam Sadatmakam Pradhanam Prakritim Prahur Vishesham Visheshavat. The answer to that question, oh mother, is that it is not that the Nirguna Supreme Purusha is creating all these things to bewitch us. That's not the object. That's not what happened. As a part of natural evolutions, all these things spring out. Now, probably this is going to connect with the Abhi's question. What happens is, let us say there are 255 things around. Not everybody is chasing after the very same 255 things. Different people chase different things. Some people don't chase at all. If you remember, Sanat Kumara concept was introduced in the very beginning itself. The first set of guys said, I have nothing is relevant, so I'm not going to participate. Why did they even introduce that concept? If somebody appears in the universe and say, I don't want to participate in the universe and go away, what is the purpose of telling that story? The purpose of that story now is relevant. Saying that those 4 Sanat Kumaras did not participate, right? Same thing was available to them. They didn't participate. You participate. Why? So it is not as if the Nirguna Supreme Purusha created attributeful God or guru or multiple things which attract people for the sake of bewitching. It's not like that. They are there. When the creation spring, it all spring. But why do you think that is purpose of all those things showing up in the universe is for you to enjoy? They spring, like you spring, they spring. Right? The extent you have a right to exist in the universe, so does the sweet fruit or the tree or the washing machine for that purpose. It was just your decision to go after them. So he says, Yat Triguno Abhyaktam Nityam Sada Sadatmakam. When all the gunas, 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajasa, Guna combination, right? when it combines in a particular proportion, in the initial stage, it could be in a non-manifest form called, at that time it is called pradhana. But when it takes a manifest state, it is called prakriti. Prakritim prahur vishesham visheshavat. When that non-manifest thing, pradhana, takes an attribute-driven form, which is appealing to specific individuals, it becomes a prakriti. In other words, in my opinion, what Kapila is trying to explain is, do not blame the objects for being attractive. Objects are what they are. Being attractive is your call. Why? Sanat Kumara didn't participate. They didn't find it attractive. You found it attractive. Therefore, the attractiveness is probably not part of the object themselves. Attractiveness of specific objects which trigger your desire is your call. Something is happening in you which makes it very attractive, not the object themselves. In other words, seen independent of likes and dislikes of individuals like us, everything would probably be in avyakta or non-manifest state, though they are physically present. Because manifest means what? Manifest means being present as they are, or as it appears to you, as it appeals to you. I think that's where in my opinion, Kapila is making a distinction. Then yat trigure avyaktam nityam sada sadatmakam pradhanam prakritim prahur vishesha visheshavat. That vishesha is a specific attribute which is appealing to you. When that happens, they get into, as it were, a new existence, manifest to you as an attractive object. Do you get the, all of you, do you get the distinction? The same objects do not attract everybody the same way. That means the objects seem to have two types of existence. A manifest stage of attracting some people, the same physical object not attracting other people means they're non-manifest as far as they're concerned, as it were they don't even exist. But they do exist, right? Therefore, it is available in a non-manifest form, avyakta, non-manifest form. This is very important because Kapila is trying to use this empirical observation that the same objects do not appeal the same way to everybody. Only some people are bewitched, others are not bewitched, and therefore objects probably have, it's not what Kapila is saying, I am saying, objects probably have two states of existence. One is the avyakta state of existence, where even if they are present, it does not matter to people. But they have the same physical object may have a vyakta state of existence with attribute which appeal to certain people. If I have to give a very, very silly and crude example, what is the English name for Karela? Bitter gourd, right? Bitter gourd is same. It doesn't change its taste, shape, size, color, nothing it changes. But some people love it. Like I love bitter gourd a lot. In day I will eat it. But quite a lot of people don't like it because it is bitter. The bitterness of the bitter gourd does not change for me who love it or somebody else who hate it. In which case, what is the bitterness of the bitter gourd then? It does not universally influence the same way. That means the bitterness transforms into likability or dislikability. Same bitterness becomes likable to me, dislikable to others, some others. That means bitterness changes into another attribute called likable to me and undislikable to other person who won't even register its existence. In other words, crudely to crudely tell this, bitter gourd exists for me because I love it. Bitter gourd does not exist for others who hate it. This is very important because as Kapila is going to build in the next few slokas, the structure of the psyche, human psyche, cognitive psychology goes into. When you try to define the structure, he's going to introduce concepts and elements which will make the same thing likable to some people, dislikable to somebody else. Why is it so important? If we know this difference, if we know what makes me like bitter gourd and others dislike, then we have a solution. Like what Meryl was asking about. Then we have a solution, we have methodology, how to be involved at the same time, how to be how to interact without getting involved. The likable, dislikable element, if we transcend, we can interact with bitter gourd without getting involved. Do you get that?
It's very hard to understand this.
Yes, indeed. I mean, I think through, for example, I use the same example again. Why should bitter gourd appeal to someone, not appeal to others? Why? It does not change. If somebody puts a plate of bitter gourd, cut, made into some vegetable curry kind of a thing in front of us, it is same to everybody, 6 people around the table. Only one person loves to eat, others don't like it. Why? Why does bitter gourd take the shape, manifest shape of likable entity to some and dislikable entity to others? Why? Therefore, the mechanism which is responsible for liking bitter gourd is not in bitter gourd, but in the people around, 6 people around. Do you get that? Yeah, Miral, do you get that?
No. Sorry.
Okay, let me try to tell again. A plate of chips, what do you call, is make it from potato chips. You got this bitter gourd chips, fried bitter gourd. You bite it, it's very bitter. It's there on the table in a friend's house. You've gone to a friend's house, they put a dinner, they put it there. 10 of you around the table. 8 of them don't even go there because it's bitter. But 2 people like me love it. Eat the whole plate. Why? Why should I like the bitterness, whereas others dislike the bitterness? Why?
Different gunas?
We will see. We'll go layer by layer. But the fact, do you recognize this difference is the question. In a small bitter gourd thing, you translate in a bigger level, bigger level. Sanat Kumara found the whole universe distasteful.
Different karma?
We will come there. Let's not jump into solution. First of all, we have to understand the object's likability or dislikability is not part of the objects, but it is part of the kartrutva, bhoktritva person. Bitter gourd is itself whatever it is supposed to be.
Now I understand what you're trying to
Yeah, like again, Abhi, you said, no, if you're born as a deer or a tiger, you are what you will be what it is to be. Like they say, there's a joke. It's not a joke. Somebody put it as a joke, but I thought it was a great philosophical content in a Facebook joke. A grass's viewpoint, if you take grass, his viewpoint is the violent animal is not the tiger, but deer. Because tiger doesn't eat the grass. You would say deer is the softest animal, tiger is the worst kind of animal. You would say that. But the grass's viewpoint is different. In which case, is tiger a violent animal or not? Is deer a soft animal or not? You cannot answer this question in absolute terms. Tiger is what it is supposed to be. Deer is what it is supposed to be. The kartrutva, bhoktritva entity. If you are a grass, you would call the tiger a friendly animal. Correct? But if you are a human being, you would call tiger a violent animal because it eats you. You'd love to hug a deer, not a tiger. Therefore, objects by themselves do not have the likable, dislikable, food, poison, these kind of attributes. They do not. These attributes are in the minds of the kartru, the doer, bhoktru, the enjoyer.
But I understand that this is great a great example. Because I mean, I understand that's the concept of you're trying to say about being subjective and objective in kind of your approach of this. But there's a reason why, like, I mean, nobody wants to hug a tiger, right? Even though it's small.
No,
I'm just saying. I'm
no,
saying.
this sloka is this explanation I'm giving is not to encourage you and go hug the tiger. That's not the idea.
No. But what I'm saying is, but the fact is, at least, I mean, I'm just trying to make this. I mean, but the point is, Bhagavata doesn't say that okay, you can eat non-veg versus veg, right? I mean, everybody's eating vegetarian, but according to you, it's relative. Eating vegetarian also can be bad.
No, hold on. Again, the purpose has to be as a food or what is the objective in life? It all depends on the objective in
Food.
life.
Let's keep it simple. Like say for food, like tiger is doing for food. Reason I gave the tiger example is because inherently it's born as a tiger, it's doing as a tiger, but it is doing some papa, for lack of a better word. It's committing some sin.
It is
I'm
not.
just making up.
A tiger is another animal or you. It is not committing a papa. It's a wrong understanding.
Okay, so that was my clarification. But a deer is also then how does
But as a human being, you have a choice to eat animal flesh or vegetables. You have a choice. You exercise a choice. On the other hand, tiger cannot exercise a choice because by birth it's a carnivorous animal.
But what about evolution, Paddy Uncle? I'm not saying tiger now. I'm saying okay, you can talk about saber-toothed animals way long back and all that. I'm talking about evolution from 5 million years ago, or even if you take 20 million years ago.
No, hold on.
Hold
on. I want to stop you here because see, when an example is given, it should not be taken in absolute sense. An example is always given for a particular attribute of a conversation. Because you will never come to any conclusion. Here, the idea being talked about, this is a boundary condition. The boundary condition is, do objects themselves have likability and dislikability as an attribute? The answer is no. Objects have their natural attributes. That's it. Likability or dislikability is in you. Bhoktru has a likability, dislikability. It's not on the object.
Okay,
that's all.
got it.
You should leave it at that. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, no, that's clear. That's clear. Yeah.
I brought in tiger because you asked a question: what happens if I'm born as a tiger? If you're born as a tiger, if you eat flesh, you're not committing a sin. But if it's a human being, even though I won't call it a sin, you make a choice, you live as per your choice. What is that? If you eat, I'm not criticizing non-vegetarian food. I'm just saying, if you are willing to eat non-vegetarian food, it means you are okay for being, what should I say, himsa for the animal, other living being, when there are options available. So that choice you start making, your mind becomes that way. Even when a better choice is available, you want to take this choice because you like it. Like for example, you have a blood pressure, your heart condition or whatever, you have an option to eat fish oil, which supposedly good, they say omega or whatever they call it.
Correct, omega 3.
The choice is whether you want to endure another life because you want to have a better heart, or if there is any other way in which, without killing a fish, where you can have better heart. The choice is yours. Nothing is wrong. Both the choices are okay. You have to live by the choice you make. If you develop a mental model or tendency of making a choice in which your life has a higher priority than any other life, your actions will follow that. It's as simple as that. Because every time you choose like that way, your actions, your tendency, you go in a particular path. On the other hand, if you always think in terms of, is my action causing injury to another living being? You are likely to think differently in every walk of life, and you are likely to behave differently. If not perfect, occasionally at least you are likely to be different. That's it. They are only, without being judgmental, they are only trying to explain how and gunas help you to make a choice, how choice makes you to take an action, how an action is a consequence, and you have to live with the consequence, which is in terms
And
of
and
reinforce.
that and that's where the question about reincarnation comes, because your action determines your consequence. Like the consequence is judged by somebody else. Like you said initially, there are some devatas for judging your tendencies or your into the next birth. They say, hey, this guy ate non-veg. I'm going to make him a tiger tomorrow. I'm just making it up. Oh, somebody else ate only sattvic food, like whatever they ate only spinach. So I'm going to give them a human birth again. No,
Uh,
I'm sorry, but we don't know the truth.
I
So I'm
do
just trying to play devil's advocate there.
I don't know. I understand your question, but
Yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, I am not wise enough to say whether the Devata's decision in somewhere up in the sky to give you a tiger birth is because you ate non-veg and nothing
No,
else.
no, I'm not saying animal birth. I'm again, tiger is just an example. It could be any animal. Like the
I
point is
don't know. I
because
don't
yeah,
know. Honestly, I don't want to mislead you. I don't know exactly how it works, other than saying that you are responsible for the choices you make because the choices drive the actions. Actions drive a particular result. It builds a particular tendency. Once you build a particular tendency, that is how you are likely to behave. And this consequence could put you in a positive movement in evolutionary, spiritual evolutionary path, or a negative. Beyond this principle, I am not able to exactly say, give you a list of things which you should eat or you should not eat to get you be born again as a human being. I have no idea.
no, 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 I understand. I'm just saying what is positive and what is negative. How do we learn that part?
Sattva,
Like
that is that all those things will come. Ashtanga yoga is
okay, okay,
the
okay.
beginning. All those things will come in stages as to say what is the framework which will help us get this problem solved. And when you go to individual elements of the framework, some of these questions which you ask will be answered to a reasonable degree of satisfaction. To satisfy your immediate curiosity, I would say that given a choice in front of you, try to be honest, try to be less injurious to others is one choice. Try to be dishonest, try to be harmful to others. If I give you these two choices, which one do you think will give you more positive evolutionary space?
I mean, assuming, I mean, again, based on the spirituality of the things, I would imagine that the being the nice one.
Correct.
But
Without knowing the Ashtanga Yoga or any text for that matter.
exactly, yes.
Naturally, you know very well that without going into any of this complicated text, you know that it is better to be honest and less harmful to others.
Correct,
Correct?
correct.
That's where I think we have to go back to Greek thought process of ethics and values. Ethics and values are not dependent on any specific religious model. It is human. Yeah. A religious model is a bunch of activities recommended which will deliver on ethics and values.
No, but if I've just played devil's advocate and said there were no consequences, for example, like you said, there's a good thing and there's a bad thing in front of you. If there were no consequences or no fear, what would people choose?
People will choose what is appealing to them. Desire.
Yeah.
Desire
See, so,
alone decide.
yeah. So the point is that then what Miran said was right, that guna matters. Because if I'm a sattvic person, I'll always choose a
I'm
good
not
stuff.
saying no does not matter. I'm saying we are going a little ahead of ourselves.
Oh, okay, okay,
Right
okay.
now, Kapila is trying to say the way objects influence you depends upon you, not just on objects. That's all. That is where we are stopping.
Okay, got it.
When
Okay.
we say yat triguna abhyaktam nityam sada sadatmakam pradhanam prakritim prahut vishesham visheshavat. When he says that, he's saying objects as it were are unmanifest to you. When gunas come by, he's already giving a hint, right? Yat triguna abhyaktam nityam. He's telling that. Depending upon your guna mix, your likes and dislikes will manifest. Your
Got
likes
it.
that will create a separate existence of the same physical object different to you when compared to others. In other words, he's trying to shift the responsibility to you. Don't blame the objects for being attractive. Objects are what they are. You have a problem, not the objects. Right? That's why he's trying to help slowly. If you go to Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he will straight away say, in one line, he will say, it's your problem, nobody else's.
Yes, I would like to say something about this. It is so amazing that how much generally people don't understand that everything is me and my decision, the way I see things, the way I don't want to see things, coming from God knows, we can analyze it from childhood, from birth, from karma, from genes, whatever, but everything is my only me and my decision, whatever I make do in life. And it is very, very hard. It took me many years actually to take responsibility for all my actions. And I know that even when I screw up, I'm sorry for my language, but even when I mess up something, I did it. It's not my neighbor, it's not the society, it's not Queens, it's not my parents, it's not anything, not my job, my boss, it's me. It's my decision. And maybe that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, absolutely correct. In a way, yeah, you're absolutely correct. That is the starting point of rewiring ourselves. It may not happen in one effort, one life. We may fail multiple ways, but every inch of progress is a progress. So that's why many times I say that let's not set unrealistic expectation ourselves, which pressurize us. Let us continue. That's why I told you there are two horses we are riding at the same time. One is a wild horse, which takes us all around, all objects of desire, etc. On the other hand, there's another horse also we are riding, which is taking us slowly into the areas of equanimity, equipoise, and complete self-realization. Till that point is reached, we have to learn to ride both the horses. Okay, I think it's already 7:15. Maybe is it too late for Miral? I think. What happened to your class, Miral? 7 o'clock you have a class, right?
No, not today.
Oh, good. That's why you're still around.
Today.
Okay, good. I think I'll stop here because next he goes on to defining the structure of human psyche, how it relates to objects, etc., and senses, etc., which is going to be a long conversation. And this is very important. This last sloka is very, very important. That's not exactly what Kapila says. Is my interpretation that physical objects are always there, but they manifest to you very differently from others because of your guna mix. Right?
Thank you so much.
Think about it, and we will continue. Next Sunday, obviously, is going to be Patanjali Yoga Sutra. We will see after 2 weeks. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.